I think we're ready to start, yeah.
Take one of these and pass them along.
Oh, sure. It says do not use samples.
Yeah, and that's, in the end, it's probably not even something you'll necessarily need to hold on to, but for now, it's just like a visual aid
Okay.
to make sure that everybody knows what I'm talking about as I'm going over it.
Okay, super.
Are we ready to go? All right.
Oh, I haven't finished reading.
Well, we'll get to that
Oh,
part.
okay.
We'll go over this first. So this is just an example of the actual petition page. And it sounds like, we've got our work cut out for us because we have 7,000 signatures to gather between now and about mid-July. So a lot of this stuff is really, really important to understand because we need every single one of those signatures that we collect to count. And the folks that check these things can be pretty nitpicky, and even just the smallest mistakes can get a whole page of signatures thrown out. So it's really important to know a lot of this stuff and make sure that the petitions are filled out correctly. So of course, the first section in there is signature. It doesn't necessarily matter what a person's signature looks like, as long as that signature is going to be matching with the signature that they have on the voter file, so the last time that they registered to vote, and the signature that they use there, these folks will compare that, just like they do with your ballots. They will compare that with the signature that they have on file, and if they're like wildly different, it's possible they may contact the person to say, hey, did you sign this? We need you to come in and verify it, or they might just throw it out entirely. Not entirely sure, kind of just depends. So that's just a very important thing to communicate to the person if they're at all confused about putting their signature on there. Another thing maybe, I'll say now and probably a couple of other times, is it is also really important to keep everything within the lines. I will say, of course, like when it comes down to it, there is a little bit of wiggle room, but we want to just pretend like there isn't, just to be absolutely sure that we're not, that some folks aren't getting a little bit sloppy and getting these things filled out and whatnot.
So can they write their first name above and then their last name? Can they divide that space into two?
For signature?
Yeah, in terms of signature. Is it just the last name enough?
Oh no, they'll need,
There's no room.
again, it kind of just, it has to match whatever they have as their signature on the voter file. As we've seen with some people's signatures, it can be one recognizable letter and then a big long swoosh. If that's what matches their signature, it's good to go. I've even seen some people will actually even have like maybe a heart dotting an I in their signature or something like that, or even a smiley face. Again, as long as it matches what they have on the voter file, that is their legal signature.
Do we have a copy of that voter file, or?
No, we don't.
But do they have to show their voter file? How will we know?
We just have to trust
Oh.
and let them know, as long as this signature matches what you have on the voter file. And as long as it's close enough and the person checking, it's not going to look like, this doesn't look at all like their signature, then there's probably going to be no concern. Yeah. But that's just, we just have to inform them and then trust that what they're doing is correct. And then date signed, again, really important that we're getting the date, the correct date on there. And they do have to put like, month, day, and year in there. We can't just have folks writing like 522. It needs to be the full 52224. So yes, it does, some of these sections do get a little bit crunched for space, but you just, again, remind those folks like, hey, keep it in the lines as best you can, write small, but legible. And then every single page of petition, like every single petition page that you have to be from the same date. So you aren't going to want to take like a petition page home from a day of signature gathering, and that's on 522, and then start using that same page to start doing signatures for 523. You will just, you'll have maybe 6 on this page, and then you just start a whole new page for the following day. Don't mix dates on the same petition page. Here it says residence address or post office address or home telephone number. Most often we are going to want to push for a residence address. That's just kind of a best practices thing. That is what is going to designate them as a voter within the city limits of Bozeman. But again, technically it is just whatever information they have on the voter file. So if they provided their phone number on their voter registration form when they submitted that, they can use their phone number there, and that can be used to verify with their voter file. But again, we'll want to lean more towards residence address. But if they're like, I don't want to do that, I want to put my phone number, you can be like, okay, that's fine.
And their cell number, right?
Yes.
So they won't, I don't know what I put on my voter registration, whether I put my address or my phone number. Is the address always on there?
The address almost always has to be on there,
Yeah.
because you have to have a physical address
Okay,
to register to vote.
okay.
Yeah.
So I couldn't tell you if I had a phone number.
Yeah, we don't know that. I mean, if folks are confused about it, this is why I say like, you're gonna want to typically just go with the residence address. Because it's like, okay, well, we could take the time, have them look at their voter file themselves on their phone through the portal, see what information they provided there. But all of that also like takes time. And when we're in the sort of like time crunch that we're in, we're going to want to collect these signatures as quickly as possible and move on to the next signature.
Oh, and they're not gonna wanna fool around with that.
Yeah, they're not going to want to, it is only a couple steps, but still, it's several steps that we don't have to take if you can just write that residence address.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Is there some reason why they can't make the margins smaller so there's more room for signing and writing the name and stuff? When it's printed out?
I don't know if I could answer that question.
Yeah, 'cause
There's
that's
probably
a
some
policy.
reason that they don't, but this is just like, basically like the legal size that needs to be.
And if somebody does take up 2 lines to write their info in, is that okay? Mess up somehow and.
So
2 lines?
we would want to try and not do that for sure. But if it happens, then just make sure you skipped. Like if someone is writing in section 4 and a bunch of their writing is bled down into 5, just then for your next signature, go to 6. Don't try to have them overlap. And that should be fine. Yeah. So then printed last name and first name and middle initials. Try as hard as you possibly can to make sure, even as folks start writing, be describing that to them. Tell them, and this section's your signature, this is date with year, this is your residence address, and then print your last name, comma, first name, initials, middle initials. Again, is that if someone screws that up, is it going to get it thrown out? Probably not, but it's not a risk we want to take. So we want to just make sure that folks are legibly printing their last name first, followed by first name and middle initials. County of residence, I mean, that should ideally be the same for everybody on this petition. So I'm not going to say a whole lot there. They should just be writing Gallatin in that section, everybody that's signing this thing.
Does it have to be written down full Gallatin, or can they put GAL?
I think writing out the full word
Okay.
is preferred. Yeah. And then the office use only, we don't do anything with that section. That's just, is the signature approved? That's what they do in the office. So again, trying to keep writing out of that as much as possible is really ideal. I know there were some more general things I wanted to say about the forms. Might be slipping. If I remember it, I'll come back to it. But that's, that's basically the gist of the form. And I think as, we really get rolling on this, it sounds like it could all be moving pretty fast if things have been conditionally approved. Of course, there'll be, like an ideal script that the team will work out. But, usually that's just like, hey, do you have a moment to talk about, water conservation in the city of Bozeman? Do you have a moment to talk about, restricting use of single-use plastics? Try and keep it as short as possible, just to give the person an idea of what it is that you're trying to talk to them about, and then give them a second to make the decision. Like, yes, I do have a second.
Can you give a little of something of that nature to the person, like a piece of paper that just says, ballot initiative, single-use plastic, and,
You certainly can. If we were carrying enough of those to hand out to every single person that we talk to that day, you might be carrying a lot. What is required is, of course, there will be the kind of summary of the initiative on every single one of the petition pages, and that's required by law. What is also required by law is that we have at least one full copy of the initiative on us at all times. So every single canvasser that goes out has to have at least one full copy on them for people to view. They don't necessarily take it with them. Again, we could have full copies of it printed out, but that's a lot of paper and a lot of carrying stuff around.
Is it online anywhere?
Is it online?
Anywhere.
Yeah, I imagine it will be.
Oh, well, yeah, we could just get the URL.
We have to have a physical copy. That is just, that's required by law for
Oh,
signature
but
gathering.
if they wanted to see it,
Yes,
yes.
I would assume that would be a question for Randy or John or Dan.
Okay.
Yeah. I doubt this will happen. Just as an example to kind of reiterate this point though, in some of our past campaigns, we have had just some of the tricks that dissenters might try to use in trying to either slow you down in signature gathering or trying to get your signatures invalidated. One very common thing is one person who maybe doesn't like what you're doing will stand there and try and just keep you talking for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Of course you want to be able to have an engaging conversation with a person. You're trying to inform them so that they are making an informed decision when putting their signature on this petition. But if it becomes clear to you at some point that this person is just talking to take up your time, you're going to want to just say like, hey, thanks so much. There's information online, or you can look this up here or there, but I got to get going. Have a nice day. Regarding having a copy of the initiative on you at all times, we have actually had people who know that rule, and what they'll do is they'll ask like, hey, can I see your copy of the petition? And they'll get that copy in their hands, and then they will take off with it. And we've had to have people like, then at that point, if that person doesn't have another copy of it on them, they have to stop gathering signatures and wait until someone is able to deliver another physical copy. And all of that time that they've spent waiting is wasted time for gathering signatures. Because if you do try to gather signatures without one of those copies of the petition on you, it can invalidate certainly any of the signatures you gathered while not having that in your possession, but it could potentially have all of the signatures that you have gathered that day invalidated. So it's super, super important to always have a copy of it on you.
If the person wants to see your paper copy of the initiative, are you compelled to say, yeah, there it is?
Yeah, you want to let them see it because, we don't want them to think like, we're doing anything nefarious. Like, no, you can't see it. You can't look at what this actually says. We don't want them to think we're hiding anything, of course, because, we're not. We want folks to know what it is we're trying to do because we think it's a really positive thing. So certainly, if someone asks to see it, they can take it and look at it as long as they need. But again, you know, if it becomes apparent that they're just kind of taking you along for a ride, kind of just let them know, like, hey, I need that back so I can continue to gather. There's other people that want to sign this petition. So
We should have a couple copies of this one.
that would be ideal. Yeah. But definitely, yeah. Again, just not necessarily handing them out. Another thing to bring up when actually doing signature gathering, and if, you know, if you've done any sort of like canvassing or anything like that, you should probably know that, you know, don't be non-combative. Don't, especially no matter how, you know, aggressive or ornery the person is that's talking to you, it is so incredibly important that you just maintain a good attitude about it. You know, say, hey, thanks for your opinion, but you know, I really got to move on. Just being as courteous as possible, despite however the other person is acting, is really paramount. I mean, that was always, for any of the signature gathering campaigns I've been on, that is grounds for like immediate removal, despite however that person may have been acting. If someone is super aggressive and you feel threatened in any way, certainly try and get a hold of your like canvas supervisor, whoever it is that's kind of, you know, in the field helping out all of the signature gatherers. Let them know, and then the two of you can talk out, like, is this a situation we need to call the police? Because impeding a petition gatherer is against the law, and they can actually have charges brought against them if it's egregious enough.
So are there tricks for engaging someone, catch their eye, smile? How do you do it?
Well, yeah, I mean, a smile's always great. I think especially because we're in an election season now. I mean, you already see there's two other groups out there gathering signatures for the ranked choice voting and also for reproductive rights. So for the most part, folks are going to know what you're out doing. When you walk up to them with a clipboard, you know, maybe it would be ideal to have like some signage on the back of those clipboards that says like, this is initiative this, you know, maybe a nice little logo so that they can even see that and be like, oh, this is one of those petition gatherers. So you're not walking up to them and they're like, oh no, I've already signed, because they think you're with reproductive rights or ranked choice voting. So that's really helpful. And then just, you know, I mean, yeah, just being warm and kind and not like invasive. I mean, you don't want to chase folks down necessarily. But if it seems like they're interested, you know, and they want to sign, but they are in a hurry, I mean, walk along with them. You know, just take your clipboard and just keep walking with them. Like, yep, do this. I almost hesitate to bring this one up, but it is important because it's something we have come across in the past, but not very often. I'd say in both of the signature gathering campaigns I've been a part of, we've had this happen like once on each campaign. You might come across a person who is like not necessarily capable of writing. You know, maybe they've got some sort of hand tremor, or there's some, you know, some reason that their penmanship is hindered in some way. You can fill out all of the information for them except for the signature. Again, with the signature, it doesn't matter if their hand is, you know, shaking all over the place like this. If that's their signature, that's their signature. That's one piece we cannot write for them. But the rest of it, if they require the assistance, we can do it. But it's not something you're going to want to offer right out. But that is legal to do. So, again, probably not going to happen during your signature gathering, but still good to know. Yes?
Yeah, I just noticed that the address also has the city, state, and zip code. So that's in that little space, that's going to be quite something. So they need to have Bozeman, and they need to have Montana, and they need to have a zip code, I'm assuming, in addition
Yes.
to a street name.
Yes. Yes, it is a little tough. I don't know, and again, maybe Brandy, Dan, or John might have a better idea. I'm assuming that this is probably the most condensed version of the language that we can possibly have on there. But the only way that, there could be any more room created in any one of these cells would be to get rid of some of the language and bring it up. But I don't know if that's a possibility. So yes, it does seem unfair to have to try and fit all of that information into these small little blocks, but it is what is necessary. Yeah.
So one thing that Eric Semrad told me the other day, and I don't know if we'll have the opportunity to do this, if we do have conditional approval, if we have to resubmit, we have to confirm it with them, is that because it's within city limits, we may not need the county of residence column, which would give us a little more room.
That's possible. I guess one of the campaigns I did was just a citywide because it was for the streamline, and we were doing the urban transport district. And actually I think because that also included Belgrade, did it not?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, so maybe still same county. I couldn't answer that.
Okay,
Yeah,
we'll
that's-
have to ask them now.
Yeah. And again, it's just gonna be everybody's writing the same thing in that column anyhow.
Yeah, some of the state ones, they just put the county at the bottom, and they only collect from the same county page. So maybe,
Okay.
Yeah.
maybe there's a way that we can indicate that
That's totally
Yeah.
right.
county somewhere without picking up the column space.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess that's also another really important thing, maybe in the, so you stop someone, you've engaged with them, they're interested in what you're saying. Ask them before they start writing anything on the page, are you a registered voter in the city of Bozeman? Because if they're not, then their signature, while we appreciate their support, is not helpful for us.
And so would you find that mostly with students, that they're not a registered voter?
Yeah, if you're doing it on the college campus and stuff like that. But it's good to check with everyone because also, we're a pretty popular tourist town. So a lot of the folks, even in downtown, that you might be engaging with, maybe they're visiting, from out of state or, even just here from out of town, from somewhere else in Montana. Just got to be clear, this is for voters in the city of Bozeman.
It only affects Bozeman, correct?
Yes. Any more questions about the petition page specific? Of course, black or blue ink are necessary. No colored pens, no pencils.
No colored pens.
No, just black or blue ink.
Okay.
Blue is acceptable, or black.
So having a few pens available is a good idea.
100%.
Sure. Just
Yeah.
letting you know.
And then if somebody, if they're doing their row and they screw up, and they want to rewrite, so just a single line to that entire row,
Exactly.
but don't try to scribble it out, just a single.
Yep, no, that's a very good point, actually. If someone does make a mistake and they want to start all over, have them just put a single line through what they've written so far. Don't let them scribble it out, because when the folks validating these signatures see something just all scribbled out, they're like, well, what information was there? Why was this scribbled out? Who scribbled this out? And that might make them a little bit suspicious. So if it is just a single line through the information, and then oftentimes at the end of that line that they put through it, we always have folks put their initials real small at the end of that, so that it's just an added piece of assurance, this is the person that put that line through that. And then have them restart in these, they did that in 5, and then start in 6 all over again. And that's the way to correct mistakes on the form. Thanks.
Can you save them time by filling out the county yourself?
This is something it sounds like we're going to have to figure out. It sounds like with the clerk and recorder's office, because it's possible that we may not need to have them put the county of residence on it all. now that Natsuki brought that up, I do remember, like, we as the petition gatherers would have to be mindful of that. And when we were doing a statewide one, you know, we'd have to ask, what county are you registered in? And then we'd have to have separate pages where we had written the county name on the bottom and just make sure that they are signing for that county. So to be clarified, I guess, is the best answer to that question. Yep.
Looks like the next scheduled election is going to be on Tuesday, the 4th of June, is that correct?
Yeah, it's the primary election.
And I know you can mail them in there, but a lot of people stop by and just drop them off at the election office or the county courthouse. And we send a commission in there, a group of people that sign up, because we know they're registered if they're handing in their
The short
ballot.
answer is yes. Now, there are rules around what is called electioneering. And depending on who's, depending on who's working in the office that day, is kind of how the rules might end up coming down. Because, for instance, when we were doing the marijuana campaign, we were able to set up outside of the polling place during the primary elections. You have to be, I think, last I checked, you have to be at least 30 feet from the ballot box or from the polling place. So I mean, yeah, that I believe is the rule. We had I'll keep it very brief, but we had a little bit of a stinker who didn't necessarily like what we were doing at that time, who raised a bit of a fit about it and tried to tell us that we needed to be 100 feet away, and it just wasn't true. So but that's something to definitely clarify as far as the laws go regarding electioneering, is how far you have to be from, they even set up that outdoor box that folks will collect ballots for. And you just need to be, again, 30 feet away from that, 30 feet away from the doors of the election, of like City Hall, not City Hall, courthouse, yes, sorry. So 30 feet away from the doors, 30 feet away from the ballot box, and you're good. The other thing is that you cannot approach someone until after they have submitted their ballot. You can't see if someone's walking up with a ballot in hand, let them just go straight to the ballot box. Even if they stop to talk to you, they're like, hey, what are you doing? You just gotta be like, hey, I'll talk to you about it afterwards. I need you to drop off your ballot before we can chat about this. That's a very good point. So yes, that is legal and a very effective thing to do, actually, because you're getting a lot of the voters. There are still a lot of folks that go down to the polls, for sure. Any others on the petition before I move on to that declaration page?
When does this have to be turned in? Or what's the deadline on the petition?
There's no specific deadline, but roughly July 12th.
July.
That's the maximum time that the election office would need to approve all the signatures, but they said they're willing to work with us and make it a part of this.
Yep.
Another concern has been, suppose you approach somebody who would be willing to sign, but they forgot that they'd already signed somewhere else on another day with another person. And said, yeah, sure, I support your cause, everything, let's do it. I'm sure that the election commission is going to pick that up, but
Yeah.
Is there any way we can check on that or to confirm it?
Unfortunately, there's no way for us to check on it. You are correct. The elections office will catch that, and they won't double count signatures.
Right.
So if someone does genuinely forget that they'd already signed it, or if they're even like, I'm not sure if I have signed this one, you can be like, well, just go ahead and be sure. That's fine, because it won't get double counted. But sometimes you might get somebody who says like, oh, I've already signed this one like 5 times. And maybe to that person, because it's like, oh, we appreciate your support, but please stop signing, because that could end up slowing down the validation process. Yeah. But no, it's fine if it genuinely happens. Well, if anything else pops up in anyone's minds, please, we can come back to it. This next part is a real kind of just monotonous aspect to all of this. So these are the unsworn declaration pages that we have to fill out every single day at the end of signature gathering. And you need to attach these to your packet of petitions. Keep them together for them to then be submitted to the clerk and recorder's office. When doing that, and this is maybe something that kind of, the core team will have to worry a little bit more about, as far as, gathering these at the end of the day, collecting them so that they can all be delivered en masse. Never want to staple any of these forms together. Always just use paper clips. And so I guess to kind of step back, give a better example of what it is I'm trying to say. You've been out on a single day gathering signatures for that day, and you've got your 15 to 20 pages of signatures. You're going to keep those all in a pile, and you will fill out one of these forms for that entire packet or series of signatures. And then paperclip this on top of that, and then keep those separate from. Don't then put another date, because there needs to be one of these filled out for each individual date and each individual signature gathered. Because it is asking, you sign this with your printed name up top, and then date on which the first signature attached was gathered, and signature, address of the petition gatherer, as well as city, state, and zip code. That section below, I was telling Franny just before we got started, in one of the signature gathering campaigns we did, every single one of the canvassers had to write out that sentence themselves on this line for every single one of these declarations that they had to fill out for that day. And sometimes we were gathering signatures from people from like 6, 7 different counties. So they would have to fill out one of these, rewrite the whole page for every single county that they had collected signatures from. We don't have to worry about that this time. And also, the most recent one that we did, we can actually just print that out, and your signature here is verification that you understand that statement and are adhering to that. So again, this is something that folks will probably become a little bit more familiarized once you actually begin the signature gathering process. And the folks in the core team will be the ones kind of making sure that you have done this part all correctly. Because again, if there's any mistakes on this page, it can again get the entire, say you have 10 to 15 pages attached to this. If there's mistakes on this page, it can get all 10 to 15 of those pages thrown out if there's anything fishy about it. So it's very important that these are done correctly. So if mistakes are made on this, you'll just have to start all over at the beginning with a fresh page to make sure that this is clean, perfect, and beautiful.
It says I and insert name. So that's this line here, you put the name down, your name on this line. It says I and insert name.
Yeah.
Where do you write and how?
So all on
print
that
it,
line.
Or what do you do?
You would print it, and this is the section that I was saying, like, we likely don't have to worry about that.
Oh.
Because we should be able to just print that statement, and you might have to write in, your name in that one part, but we won't have to rewrite that whole statement on every page.
No, but can you just write your name on this line?
It will look different. That's why this one was just a sample I pulled from a previous campaign.
Oh, okay. All right.
So yeah, just don't pay attention to that part right now.
So
Because
you were
it
saying-
will look
You were
different.
saying these come from the elections office?
I think so. I think the ones that we're looking at right now are actually ones from the marijuana campaign back
Okay.
in 2020. So this is, you know, but as far as I know, that's the only part that's outdated on this
Okay.
page. Other than that, it should all look the same. Yeah.
So if you have like multiple, like if you have a group of signature gatherers, each person should do it for their own clipboard that they gather.
Exactly, for their own pages of signatures that they gathered.
Okay. And then do you turn these in daily or you turn them in all in July?
No, usually, I think what we were doing is we were turning them in weekly. We would just, you know, there'd be one person who would gather all of these. You know, there's like a central location, some office, whatever, where someone is gathering these from all the petitioners at the end of each day.
Okay.
Because you're typically not wanting folks to go home with petition packets, because then they can lose them, things like that. So you want them all gathered at one location, filed away, and then most likely turned in at the end of the week, so that we're not just dropping all of them on July 12th. And then they're like, oh crap, now we have to try and validate all these signatures. They can be doing it on sort of a rolling basis. Yeah.
And then are there times a day that are legal to collect? Can you be out there from early morning till late at night?
Not to my knowledge. I don't think there is a time restriction on that. You know, I mean, probably not advisable to be trying to do it in downtown after 10 o'clock.
Right.
Because you're probably not going to get the best signatures or have the best conversations. But no, to my knowledge, there is no time restriction.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can go anywhere. I
Anywhere.
mean, I see people at grocery stores, but you can.
Anywhere that's a public area, or that you have permission to be. So like, campus is a good example. Like, the outdoors on campus, anywhere outside of any of the buildings, it's all public property. You can be there collecting the signatures whenever, just not inside any of the buildings. When it comes to say like downtown, especially if you're just going to have clipboards, you're not going to be setting up any tables or anything like that, so we don't have to worry about that. But as long as you're not impeding the flow of traffic in and out of people's businesses, then you're fine there. Again, that sidewalk is public property.
And a Walmart parking lot?
You can certainly get away with it for a little while. I mean, and that's highly encouraged. Like, you can definitely do those parking lots, and it just depends on the business. We definitely would, we'd hit these. Basically, what we would do is we would hit these parking lots until someone from the business came out and told us we needed to leave. Yeah.
What about the senior center? Can I go inside the senior center?
If you have permission to do so. Yeah. That's pretty general rule of thumb is if it's inside a building, as long as you have permission from the proper authorities to go into that building and do that, then you should be okay.
Now, someone wanted me to ask if petition or signature gatherers can go door to door.
Yes, they can. Yeah.
Is someone, to maybe, I don't know if you want to, is somebody going to organize the petition gathering locations and say,
Yeah, I bet Terry is.
you, Robin, you go
Yes,
to
right.
Walmart on
Right, or
Wednesday?
maybe-
Yeah, that's my job. I'll be doing that.
Oh, you would do
Yeah.
that? Oh, great. You
What is
are,
that? Are you doing it, Franny?
I'm doing it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we have 7 people here today, so that means 1,000 signatures
Yeah.
each.
Yeah.
Wait, there's more people.
And
There's
there's
more
more
people.
people.
I was only planning on 100, so you guys maybe just multiply.
But yeah, no, that's something again that the core team will work out. Because it's good to have a person that is kind of the floating person who knows where everyone is, so we don't have folks doubling up on areas, and that folks are hitting ideal spots. It's like if you've been in a particular area of town and you've gotten one signature in the past like 2 hours, it's probably time to relocate. And then you'll be able to speak to, you know, the office person, and they'll be like, well, there's no one at this location that's turned out to be a really good one. Maybe head over there for a couple hours.
Can you bring something with you, someone with you, a friend, who would also petition with you, so that you are,
Like the county fairgrounds,
A double
there were a bunch
person.
of people out there.
Yes, if that's just a matter of properly using time and resources. If it's going to be a place where you think it's going to be necessary to have 2 people at a time,
yeah.
to be there gathering signatures, then yes, it's a good use of both of those people's time to be at that same location. If it's a goal line, you know, and it might be, you know, advantageous to have more than one clipboard, because then if you know you're by yourself, but you've got numerous people that have stopped by to talk and maybe sign, you can hand out more than one clipboard and have more than one person signing at a time. Does get a little hairy there because, again, we want to make sure that they are filling out all of that information correctly and in the correct order. So you really want to ask, you know, just ask them to follow along so it gets done. But yes, that can be advantageous. Yeah.
I'm just gonna say, I did talk to Drake over at Town and Country, he's now at Greenwood, and asked him if it'd be okay if we could petition outside of their Town and Country supermarket. And they've been very, very supportive of Down Plastics. He said, well, it's fine to me since he wants to clear interest in that. He's the main CEO headquarters guy down at Lebanon, across from the field house. So as soon as that happens, I imagine we could probably do all 3 of their supermarkets in town.
Yeah, I mean, those could basically be like reliable locations. Like, okay, we know we have these 3 Town and Country locations. Let's have someone there. And of course, you'll need to work it out with them. Maybe they don't want people there 5 days a week or 7 days a week. But that's a situation, yeah, you'd work out with them, and those would just be like, okay, you know, someone gets this Town and Country location today, and someone gets this Town and Country location.
So we'll
'Cause it's a
check that
reliable
out
one.
with Fran,
Yeah.
and we'll make
Yeah,
sure.
I'll make a system.
Okay, we can be territorial.
Okay. I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you need to be a Montana resident to collect signatures?
No. Not as of, when we did the UTD, we had one that was not a Montana resident.
Okay.
So last I checked, the answer
The
is
Montana code says you do, but I don't know if Bozeman's code is different.
maybe strike this from the video. I don't know. My assumption was that you don't have to be a resident to collect signatures, but actually, yeah, if it says it in Montana code, best just to stick with that. Yeah.
Okay.
So if we do get 7,000 signatures, then it goes on the ballot in November, is that how that works?
Yep. If everything works out appropriately, yeah.
And is 7,000 a typical number for various petitions, or are they all around?
It depends on how big the petition is. I mean, when it was a statewide, you know, it has to be 15%. Generally, it has to be 15% of the voting population to which the petition applies. So if it's the entire state, it's 15% of the registered voters in the state. But, you know, and it sounds like there's a little bit of back and forth about whether this, for this city one, it has to be 15 or 25%. But, you know, more on that later. But it's typically 15% of voters within the district that the petition applies to.
So in one of your emails, you had sent out this
Yes.
training, you know, verification of training.
Yeah.
So this is not required to collect signatures, though, is that correct, or is it?
I believe it is. This may be something that you may have to, because basically the way that these things work is someone has to do those before they can be filling out these forms.
Okay.
And that is the one, like, you do the training, fill out that information, and then it has to be signed in front of a notary. That person is then good to go, legal to start collecting signatures
Okay.
because they've received the training and everything. But might have to clarify that one just with, I don't know, the clerk and recorder's office or just in Montana code.
Okay. So we need to find a friendly notary.
Yeah.
And I've seen people wear lanyards. Is that just because they're paid, or do we have to wear some signifier like others?
No, not to my knowledge. There's no, you don't have to wear campaign gear or anything like that. Not to my knowledge. Yeah.
I'm thinking of Ren right now, dressed in plastic.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely helpful, you know, I mean, it's helpful to distinguish yourself. So, if everyone just agree, even if it's something as simple as everyone agrees to wear, neon green when they're doing signature gathering, then most of the time folks they can see you from afar and be like, oh, that's one of those canvassers. I want to, I didn't get a chance to talk to them last time. I definitely want to go over there and talk to them now. So that is certainly helpful, but not required. How are we feeling? Ish?
Yeah, just a lot to do.
Yeah. No, they don't make it easy,
Yeah.
for sure.
So what's your experience with like a good size team of signature collectors for the city? I mean,
20.
20, 40, 100?
I mean, anything above is great. The more the merrier for certain, because then just the more folks, especially if it's volunteer, if you've got 40 volunteers a day doing this, how are you doing it? I'd love to know. But yeah, I'd say you want to shoot for like a minimum of like 20 folks that are like, again, not necessarily on staff, but a good pool of like 20 folks that are doing this on maybe not a daily basis, but as best as you can, as close as you can get to that.
And is it okay for an individual to collect signatures for 2 different petitions at the same time? Or is that counterproductive?
I would say it's counterproductive. Like, if we're saying like someone is out there collecting for ranked choice, probably don't want them collecting for this, or for like mixing entirely different issues together. Probably not a good idea,
Okay.
because it can just really confuse folks, make conversations very lengthy and complicated. I mean, when we, again, back to marijuana, there had to be 2 petitions for our signature gatherers, because there was the initiative and then there was the change to our state constitution, a constitutional initiative. Folks had to sign both of those. But those applied to each other, so that's how we justified that, or needed to do that, I guess. Yeah.
So I heard a question yesterday that someone asked Terry actually, and that was, they didn't want to sign the petition because they used plastic bags for garbage bags. So if questions like that come up, I guess the point of this is to keep them all out of the landfill, right? And use paper instead, or is that?
Yes, I might have to defer that one, because I am not entirely versed on the particulars of the petition. I've certainly, I've just done this a couple of times. I know a lot of this, I'm just kind of going over the basics of signature gathering in general.
We're
That's
all
very
guilty
clear.
of using plastics. There's nobody in this town
Yeah.
that does not use plastics.
And when you get questions like that, you can ask the person like, well, if they want to stand there while you call, maybe someone back at home office to get that question clarified, great, you can do that, or you can tell them like, I'm so sorry, I don't know the answer to that question. It's a good question, let me get back to you, or ask another one of our petitioners. I just don't know. Because you're going to get lots of stinkers, and you're going to get lots of people who will, you'll get folks that will ask, great legitimate questions. In that case, you always want to, when the team kind of reconvenes or when you head back to home office, want to have like a debrief, talk about the questions that you got that day that were really confusing, so that you can talk out how to answer that question next time you get it. And then you're also going to get, you know, folks that are they're just there to get you in a gotcha question. They're just looking to get the upper hand over you. And in that case, you just, you know, again, just smile and like, you know, like, great question, you know, great concerns, have a great day. Yeah.
I think it's also helpful, like, this is not a commitment that they're voting yes or no to it, it's just to have it on the ballot. So if anyone's kind of, oh, I want to do more research, you know, be like, well, this is, you're not committing yes or no, it's just to kind of give you that.
That's a
the
very good
voters.
point.
Yeah.
This is just giving everyone the choice to make this decision in November.
Yes.
So back to the verification training. Should we come back to you when we have more people to train?
Certainly. I mean, again, you know, this was kind of rushed. You know, I got the call about like 2 nights ago. So, I mean, I think I did an all right job. And so, yes, I am definitely willing to schedule more of these. And yeah, we can go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the in-person's probably best. I mean, I know that, you know, we have a video of this, and technically I think most people could watch just a video and learn all of this and still be able to be, you know, verified. But just to make sure that we're crossing all of our I's and dotting our I's, crossing our T's. I'm willing to do, you know, numerous more of these.
Thanks.
And again, we'll just have to just clarify, because I mean, obviously, you know, we don't have a notary tonight.
Right.
You know, I don't know if I also then need to be present with the notary to say like, yes, this person completed the training. We'll just have to figure out more there.
Okay.
Anything else? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When did you
Thanks,
start?
Carl.